Okay, Karen, you can go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to start with the Land and Treaty Acknowledgement. We recognize that Manitoba is on Treaty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10 territories, and the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Dakota Oete, Denisilan, Inuit, and Nahathawak peoples. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. This morning's webinar is a continuation of yesterday's. Today we'll be talking about how to fill out an application form for the Market Development Program under the Sustainable Agriculture Partnership Market Development Program. If you have any questions as we go through it, please put your questions in the comment or in the chat box and we will answer them following the session. Today we have Jeff walking us through the application.
All right, thank you, Karen. My name is Jeff Fiddick. I'm a business development specialist with Manitoba Agriculture's Value Added branch. And we're glad you're here today. So we have lots to tell you about the application. So it's going to be about the Market Development Program, as Karen mentioned. We're going to show you how to navigate to the application documents, how to complete the applicant information form, and the application worksheet. And we're going to give you some examples just to help you with that. As Karen mentioned, please type your questions in the chat and we'll answer everything after we've given you all the content here. All right, so first thing you want to do when you're wanting to access the Sustainable CAP program is navigate your browser to manitoba.ca/SCAP, and you're going to get this nice startup page here. So you can scroll down a little bit, then you're going to see Market Development and Trade. So you click on the little plus sign here, and that's going to take you to the Market Development page, and there's some information here. And this is the old, it'll have the new intake information on there. It's got a little bit of information for you. Keep going down the page. You're going to see the 4 streams within the program, some other information about the cost share, and then there's going to be a bunch of green bars. The intake isn't open yet, so once it is open, you're going to see an applicant information form bar and an application worksheet bar. If you have applied previously to the Market Development Program, you don't need to fill out another applicant information form. If you have not applied previously, you'll need to do the applicant information form, just a real quick form. Then you can move on to the application worksheet. Alrighty. Now, if you just want to open it, once they're available, if you just want to open it and look at it, it's okay to left click on the link. However, do not attempt to fill in the form at that point because you're going to be frustrated. What you want to do is you want to right click on the link and do a save as and save that file to your computer, and then go and find the file and open it, and make sure that you're opening it with the Adobe application. We've tested it with Mac, with the Apple computers. We've tested it with the PC computers, and so long as you open it with Adobe, everything will work just fine. Okay. So here's the applicant information form, pretty basic stuff. Your name, your role in the company, where your mailing address is, the email, and please provide the email of the person, the name and the email of the person who is going to be available to answer questions. Okay, I mentioned that already. We now require that all businesses be registered with the Manitoba Companies Office. So therefore, with that, everybody should have a 9-digit business number. However, if you are a new business or you have not yet registered and cannot obtain a registration prior to applying, you can then provide your social insurance number. And we also ask, what year was the business established and how many years have you been operating it? So for instance, let's say you purchased a business in 2011, and but it's been in operation since 1979. So you would put the business was established in 1979, and you've been operating it for 2024 minus 2011. So what's that? 13 years. So you would put 13. And the thing with all the fields, all the numeric fields in the application, just enter the number. You don't need to put, years or, and just put whole years too, in terms of saying, if you've been in operation for 9 months, then put 0 for the years. Okay. These fields are voluntary. They are collected for information only and not used to inform the review process. You're not required to enter anything here. If you don't want to provide any of this information, you can say not applicable or decline to identify. Here we just want to collect the legal names of all the owner, if it's sole proprietor, the owners, if it's a partnership, or the shareholders, if it's a corporation. And this just gives us a sense of who owns the company. Some privacy stuff you want to read. This just basically says that your information is safe with us. It's held in strictest confidence. Then there's some boxes to tick. So you want to read all these statements that you're swearing to, and then you would put the date. And then in terms of doing the save, these boxes will become clickable once everything has been entered in its entirety. If they're not available, then go back and check that something wasn't filled in. Also, too, with the date format is you need to enter it in this format noted. So 4 digits for the year, 2 digits for the month, and then 2 digits for the day. I tried typing in something like April 6, 2024, and it put a bunch of funny numbers in there. So, okay. So once we've completed that, we can bounce back to the website, and then we can click on Application Worksheet. So again, if you just want to look at it, the left click is okay. If you want to edit it and actually complete it, you need to right click it, then say save as, save it to your computer, and then open it. And if your default application isn't Adobe, then do a right click and say open with, and then find Adobe. If you don't have Adobe, you can download it for free. So just go to Google, download Adobe PDF browser, and you will find it, and you can download it from a safe place. Okay, so in the application worksheet, this is where you enter all the information about your project now. So just some basic information: legal name of the business, your name, primary email. And in terms of the application itself, we've added a new feature for you to give you a sense as to what is the value of each section to the scoring process that is done. So we have project overview, 5% of the total score, business overview, 8%, project details, 43%, project marketing strategy, 28%, and project budget and timeline, 16%. We've also changed things insofar as being consistent with what is assessed in every question that you're asked to complete. So we're looking for 2 things. We want you to provide a thorough and descriptive response to each question. By thorough, we define that as a complete with every regard to detail, not superficial or partial. Descriptive, using words to convey to the reader a sense of what something is like, using words to create a visual. Again, we don't necessarily know you or your business, so the more you tell us, the better in terms of making your case as to why your project should be funded. And just some guidance in terms of what we're looking for you to provide to us. So first of all, tell your story. And what we mean by that is, who are you? Who's your business? What's your business? all that sort of stuff. So it includes some background about how, why, when, and where your company started, or if you acquired it, why you make the products you're making. Do you have a passion for making your products? If so, what is it and why? Share details of your thought process that led you to decide to spend your hard-earned money on this project. So we've seen a lot of applications where we feel like we're only being brought in on like the fourth step of the process in terms of I need to open the Saskatchewan market or something like that. And of course, we're going, well, why? Have you, like it just creates more questions for us. So have you saturated Manitoba yet? If not, why not? What's there in Saskatchewan for you? Have you done any sort of analysis? Have you done any sort of market surveys to inform whether that's a good idea or not? Just stuff like that that kind of led up to your process. So as an example for an out of province expansion, so I've already look at this, I'm ahead of myself. Are you looking at all of Saskatchewan, just the major cities, just kind of jumping down here? What outcomes are you hoping for and over what period of time? And that's an important one, just in terms of what is it that you want and expect out of this project. Also, too, are there risk factors? And one thing I suggest you do as well is rather than opening up the application and start responding to everything, is read through the entire application and see what questions there are. Because let's say I mentioned risks. Well, there's actually a section where you can identify what the risks are associated with, let's say, trying to penetrate the Saskatchewan market, if that's your project, right? So you don't necessarily have to repeat yourselves. So definitely go through the application first and see what's there. Also, too, excuse me, don't worry about using a formal or fancy writing style. It's perfectly fine. In fact, actually preferred if you write how you speak. Try to avoid technical language. We have technical expertise, but it's not necessarily the same as your area of technical expertise. If you must or choose to use technical language, then please define any jargon or acronyms you use. And we've tested the applications ourselves in terms of filling out answers, and we think there's sufficient space there. So please note the character limits and take that as a hint as to the size of response we're looking for you from each section. Not to say you need to be verbose just for the sake of filling a section, but it's your opportunity to tell us as much of your story as possible, and help educate us as to why you should do this project and why you should be funded. All right, so we're going to go through the sections in the application now. So project overview, this one's available. Will contribute up to 5% of your total score. So we've got the project title. Sounds pretty simple, but we're going to give you 250 characters. We're wanting something in the title that's meaningful to someone who knows nothing about your company. So please avoid vague titles that tell us nothing about the project purpose, intended outcomes, or what type of products are involved. We recommend using company descriptor rather than company name if your company is not broadly familiar brand. So for instance, Jeff's Food Company, no one's ever heard of it. So you're better off to say, what kind of company is it? So as an example, we would a title could be something like, excuse me, specialty cookie manufacturer, increasing its marketing efforts with the development of new labels, adding e-commerce capacity to its website, and attending trade shows to support its new processing facility. So that's 208 characters. You've got 250. So, it gives a few highlights as to what this project is about. So we don't have to dig into the application to actually see that. We have summary charts that we use to organize things. So this is more helpful. Project executive summary. So make it meaningful to someone who knows nothing about you or your company. And Just don't repeat what you entered for the title. Add some additional information. There's 1,000 characters here at your disposal, so lots of room to give us lots of information. So this is going to be similar to an executive summary at the start of a report. And as a suggestion, you could write your project information section and then pull some summary points out of it to put into this section. So I have a rather verbose example here. I'll read you this one just to show you what we're kind of looking for. So Cookie Cutter Inc., a specialty cookie manufacturer, recently completed construction and commissioning of a new 4,000 square foot manufacturing facility that includes automation of key tasks, including ingredient scaling, ingredient mixing, portioning, packaging, and labeling. Our new facility will allow us to increase production by approximately 150%, allowing us to address pent-up demand as evidenced by excessive out-of-stocks at our distributors and larger corporate retailers. We're going to seize this opportunity to do a brand refresh by developing new labels for the 10 SKUs that we offer. We expect the rebrand will boost sales by approximately 15%. We also plan to add e-commerce capacity to our website and develop and implement a social media and SEO campaign. And I should have put in there what SEO is, search engine optimization, which we expect will increase sales by 5%. Further, we plan to open the Saskatchewan market by working with Safeway Sobeys to add our products to their 8 stores in Regina and Moose Jaw. So this is 965 characters long and, kind of gives you a bit of a summary. Okay, what industry benefits from your project? And I don't think that should say industry. It should probably be what groups benefit from your project. Just noticing that. So that's it for that section. Next is business overview. So that should be a pretty easy 5% for you to get. This next one contributes up to 8% of your assessment score. So we're looking at, to start, employment. How many full-time employees do you have? How many part-time employees do you have? And really, this is collected for information only. It's not the case that whoever has the most employees wins, or even who claims to add the most employees wins either. We're just curious to get a sense of the size of your business. Please note, though, that if you're claiming FTE numbers, it needs to reconcile with the labor expense or salaries declared on your income statement. So just looking at, let's say if you sent an application in now and it was for the calendar year 2023, there were 2 minimum wage levels in Manitoba during that year. So $14.15 from January to September and $15.30 from October to December. We use 40 hours per week, 52 weeks in a year, and then we add about 15% for employment insurance, Canada Pension Plan, and WCB insurance. So we end up with just shy of $35,000. Now, if you're on a fiscal year, and it ends up being, whatever, less or, slightly less, because maybe your fiscal year was mostly at the old rate, that's fine. But we really don't want to see people claiming that you have 3 FTE when your wage or salary cost is only $25,000. So that's something you really need to be cognizant of. Also, too, when you're entering the numbers, just put the numbers. That should be easy, in terms of doing that. Okay, products. We would like you to tell us what products you carry, again, because we don't necessarily know your business. And again, 500 characters. So there's lots of room to provide a thorough and descriptive response to this question. So give us details in terms of pack sizes, case sizes, what flavors, how they're sold, where they're sold. There should be enough room here to give us a good visual. Help us create a visual in our minds as to what your line of products looks like, how extensive it is, so that we can better understand your company. So as an example, we make a line of nutritious cookies that currently consists of 4 flavors, I got real creative here. A, B, C, and D. These are retail packed in a clamshell container in packs of 12 and sold in the bakery department of 4 major grocery banners. We also package the A and B flavors in corrugated cases for food service customers in packs of 48 units. These are sold to restaurants. All products are branded with our Super Cookie brand. So this is pretty short. It's 416 characters, but you know, I think 500 gives you room to tell what you're selling. So please don't just say we sell pies. Is it fruit pies, meat pies, what flavors, what size, etc., all that stuff. What is your current sales revenue? And what percentage of your current sales revenue is related to wholesale? You may remember that when we talked about the program itself, we indicated that this program is designed for those companies who do a significant portion of their sales or plan to do a significant portion of their sales to the wholesale trade. So distributors, retailers, that sort of a thing. In terms of the current sales revenue, you can just pull it from your financials that you provided, or if you know this year is looking really good so far, and you want to tell us, you know, your year-to-date sales, that's fine too. And it's completely okay if you're a startup and have zero or very low sales. You're still welcome to apply. There really are no wrong answers here. Also, it's okay if the percentage of your sales revenue to wholesale is zero or low, so long as this project demonstrates that it's related to entering or expanding your wholesale sales. So let's say you may own a restaurant and you decided you want to start selling to other restaurants, and you're doing a marketing campaign to get into that business, or having the products packaged, etc. So all the collateral necessary for that. That's a great project. So we're happy to support that. Again, enter numbers only, so you don't need to put a dollar sign, don't need to put commas, and don't bother with the pennies. And it's okay to round. So if if it's, we're not here to make a make work project for you. So if you figure your wholesale sales are about 20%, whatever, that's fine. Put that. Commercial customers. So if you applied previously, we had current customers and future customers in one chart, and it may have been a little bit confusing. So we've broken it into 2 separate charts now. So this one is just asking about what are your major customers right now. We're not interested in consumers. We're interested in grocery stores, restaurants, food service, distributors, that sort of a thing. So you would put the name of the customer. If you want to provide some detail in terms of where they're located, that's interesting to know. Enter the number of establishments or stores that each customer store you're in right now, and enter the monthly revenue for all the establishments or stores. So just to give you an example, let's say right now we're in Safeway, Manitoba, in 6 of their stores, and we're doing about $2,400 per that 6 stores per month. So that's calculated by, we said, well, we're doing $100 per store per week times 6 stores times 4 weeks. So we use Manitoba, we're in 1 store and we're doing $800 a month. So that's $200 per store per week times 1 store times 4 weeks. And then Food Fair Winnipeg, we're in 5 stores and we're doing $1,000 a month. So the same calculation there. Also, maybe you don't have any commercial customers yet. That's okay. Just enter NA on the first line, and then the chart will be flagged as complete. However, if you do that, then we'll of course want to have you provide some information elsewhere in the application that you do have a plan, a specific plan for what stores you plan to penetrate and what markets. Your current market locations. So this one here, we're basically looking for you to tell us where you're selling your products right now. So it could be Manitoba, it could be Canada. So, that could be, let's say, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, for instance. So that would be outside of Manitoba. Internationally, United States, or maybe you're not currently selling your products. Again, that's okay. And I put example one good because you could put, okay, we're selling in the United States and it's about 10% of our total sales revenue. And again, just put the number, just put a 10 if it's 10%. So a better example might be to say, well, we're in the United States and the Midwest states, as well as California and New York. And, it's still 10% of our sales. So that gives us a little bit more information and say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, because the chances that someone is selling in every single state is kind of slim if they're just kind of getting started. It takes years and years, and you probably have several $1 million of sales. So this creates a better visual for us. The best example was, let's say you're in the United States and California, and that represents 6% of your total sales, and you're in the United States and New York, state of New York, and that's 4% of your sales. So it's up to you how you want to do it, but more information is interesting. Agricultural inputs used. Really, this one is for information in terms of understanding what inputs you're using, and really just talk about the significant ones. If there's some very minor ingredient, the only thing you're buying locally from Manitoba is some very minor ingredient, don't bother putting it on there. Also too is maybe there's a major ag input that you're having to source outside of Manitoba or outside of Canada, and it's a big one for you. Put it on the list, because maybe we might know of a local supplier that we can refer you to. And these columns are labeled, so there's some instructions here in terms of how to enter the numbers on there. And really, in terms of source, we have three things identified: Manitoba, outside Manitoba, and outside Canada. And we don't really care in terms of what particular province or state something comes from. So as an example, so flour from Manitoba, 86,000 kilograms, and the cost per year, 540,000. So again, you don't need any symbols, you don't need any commas, and don't worry about rounding. If it's 53,876, fine, just put, or 537,000, put 540,000. That's okay. Never bother with the pennies. We don't need that sort of detail. Okay, that's that section. Now we're into the project details. So this one is a big one. It will contribute up to 43% of your total application worksheet assessment score. And the first question is an easy one. So what streams is your project going to fit into? So you can click as many of these as your project applies to. You may not know at the outset, so you can go and do the budgets and and look at the guide and say, well, where does my project for revitalizing my packaging and getting NFT charts and all that sort of stuff, where does that fit? So you can fill those out as appropriate. Also too is that you only need to submit one market development application per intake, and you can put multiple projects per application per intake. So for instance, if you've got three very different market development related things you want to accomplish, it's perfectly fine to put all of those onto one application. If we receive multiple applications, we'll either take the first one that we received from you, or maybe the largest valued one. But either way, the maximum cost share available is $30,000 per intake. Another part of this one is just to tell us the project location. So what municipality are you located in? Are you on an Indigenous or First Nation community? If so, what's the name? and the geographical location. Project industry impact. So what's the primary product that will be impacted by this project? So as an example, if we have a cookie company, well, our main product is our cookies, our line of gourmet cookies. So that's what you would put. And we would basically use that information to categorize your business. So that would probably go into food manufacturing, other, in terms of what we might do at the back end of this. What is the main project opportunity or challenge? So this is an important one. And so first of all, in the first section, tell us about the challenge. And in the next section, tell us how you're going to solve that challenge or how you're going to address it. And you've got 1,000 characters in each one. And just in terms of some guidance, tell your story about what market development problems or opportunities you're looking to solve. So it could be in a story format in terms of just telling us why you're doing this. What's the problem or opportunity? Why you need to address it? Why you can't just ignore it? Try to include numbers, supporting data analysis. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just to demonstrate that you've obviously put some thought into this, and here's why you're doing it. Here's why you're willing to spend your money on it. Tell us how you came to the solution for this. Why is this the best solution? Is it because it's of the cost, because of ease of access, ease of implementation, that sort of a thing. Again, please share your thought process with us so we can understand where you're coming from. As an example of the main opportunity or challenge, we can say our company has successfully saturated the Manitoba market and currently have surplus processing capacity. So that answers a big question for us. So why are you doing this? Well, we've already done Manitoba and we've got capacity, so we might as well use it. So we set our sights in the American Midwest based on there being approximately 40 million consumers within 2 days of our processing facility in Winkler. Oh, you're in Winkler. Awesome. Exporting to the US will require Food and Drug Administration facility registration, new label design and review, different nutrition facts tables, or NFTs, finding a broker and US agent, finding LTL carriers for shipping goods to the US. So this is kind of on the short side. There can be more. It's about half of what space you have. But basically we're saying, here's why we have an opportunity. Here's how we're going, here's what we're looking at. Here's some of the other issues we need to address. And there's going to be more issues as well. So we can get into more detail. And how we're going to solve it. So we're going to gather some intel. We're going to study and document competitors in this space, price points, feature activity, all that sort of stuff. We're going to need to conduct some research and analysis about how we're going to penetrate the market, what staff are we going to use, what agents and distributors are available that we can use. We're going to do some in-market exploratory research to determine competitor threats, try and identify some opportunities within the section, and we're determine how to ship our product down there. We're going to ship at LTL to each place, or do we want to look at renting some space in a depot in the States? And so all these things that we're going to look at and analyze. And this description here is 972 characters. There's also room here for you to tell of a secondary project opportunity or challenge. Again, both are 1,000 characters and the same as before. Tell your story. Not every project or not every situation is going to have a secondary opportunity or challenge. And so long as you kind of think that through and just, tell us that if that's the case, that's perfectly fine. A bit of an example here. I won't bother reading it to you, but it just gets into some of the things we're going to look at as a secondary. Project planning and execution. So this is we've taken a previous question, we put it into a nice chart. It's more fun to fill out a chart than just a blank page. So we're looking for you to tell us who are the main players that you're going to be looking at. So what are the main companies or individuals whose services or goods you're going to be accessing? So what is their role in your project and their responsibility? So for example, we got XYZ Consulting. We plan to hire XYZ Consulting to collect market intelligence for the US market and developing a marketing strategy. Bob's Consulting, we plan to hire this company to provide recommendations regarding adapting our products to US market requirements, which will include ingredient and packaging selection. So some different skills from each of these people, these companies. Project risks. So you want to identify that you're cognizant of the risks of doing or perhaps not doing this project, and just show us that you've considered that. Again, it's one of those things where our assessment team are all familiar with business and business practices, and we have these questions in our mind. So you tell us something, and then we got these questions popping in our heads. So you want to do as much as you can to kind of anticipate those questions, so then we're not left wanting for any information. So as an example, from store visits to the US Midwest region, we believe our cookies are largely unique relative to existing offerings in the central store cookie category. However, we need to be prepared for pushback from existing vendors in the section, insofar as them maybe countering with price action or trying to shut us out. So we'll mitigate this risk by asking the consulting firm we're hiring to determine if there are any competitive threats we need to anticipate as we work to penetrate this market. And, maybe if they have any recommendations as to what other companies may have done as a best practice, and so on. There's room for 3. If you can only think of 1 or 2, then just put NA in the space, so you're not leaving anything blank. We're now requiring, I think I mentioned this before, that every field needs to be filled in. So in a chart like this, if you have 1, then just on the next line, just put NA, and then we'll take that as being complete. Okay, project marketing strategy. Wow, we're through that other section already. Look at us. So this one's going to contribute up to 20% of your total application worksheet score. And of course, marketing, you think of the 4 Ps. That's a very old model and a very manufacturer, vendor related kind of model. So there's a modern version that simply converts each of the Ps to a C and takes more of a customer focus. So product becomes customer, price becomes the cost to the customer, place becomes convenience for the customer in terms of how hard do they have to work to get your product, and promotion becomes communication, because now with modern technology, the internet, etc., we can communicate. There can be a two-way conversation with your customers. We're not just advertising, mass media. So there's a section for each of these. And I'm just noticing a couple of questions hidden up here, so we got to answer those first. So is this project assisting you in entering a new market? So that's a yes or no. Is this a project assisting you in expanding an existing market? And a yes or no. So meaning if we're going to a new market, the United States, then it is yes, we're entering a new market. And are you expanding an existing market? On this project, no, because we're just talking about going to the States. We're not looking at expanding our existing market in Canada, let's say. So there's a thing for each of the C's. They give you some direction here in terms of what to put in there. And then I provided some examples here just to give you an idea. And I'm sure these can be improved upon, but just an idea in terms of, again, try to create a visual for us. And we really do hope that you know and understand who your customer is and what their needs are and how you're satisfying those needs. I'm sure you do. So there's then the cost, the convenience, and we got how our pricing is determined. And I was kind of generic here, but if you want to, share with us, the formulas you're using in terms of whether you're using, let's say, the factoring method, or if you're, going from a target retail, however you want to share with us. Convenience, where you're selling your product to, how it's being delivered, how it's getting to those stores. So again, more information, the better. you really can't tell us too much. You know, it's all very helpful. Communication, of course, we're using two-way media here in terms of interacting with our customers. We've got some signage we're talking about. Okay, commercial customers. So at this point, now we're talking about outcomes. And so we want you to tell us what new customers you're planning to penetrate as a result of this project. So for example, you'd say Safeway Winnipeg, we're going to add 6 stores and we're looking to do $4,800 a month out of those 6 stores, those 6 new customers. We're also looking at Red River Co-op in Winnipeg, 3 stores, and we're looking to do $1,800 per month out of those 3 stores. And then that's all we're looking at right now. So I just put in A on the next line. In terms of the calculation for this to get there, so I'm saying $200 per store per week times 6 stores times 4 weeks. So that's the math to get to $4,800. And the co-op, $150 per store per week times 3 stores times 4 weeks. That's how you get this. And again, just enter the numbers only, no dollar signs, no commas, and don't worry about the pennies. Project outcomes. So there's, what are the 3 major expected project outcomes? There will be a drop-down menu to choose which objective you're going to accomplish, and then you can provide some description. So for instance, if we're looking to hire a consultant to help to develop a marketing plan for us for penetrating the Northwest US, and some of the deliverables in there, then that's what we would say is one of the project outcomes. Because the thing is let's say the next thing is we've actually got within our budget some of the production, anticipated production or development of collateral. So, maybe having a new package designed, getting new nutrition facts tables specific to the US market. So then we might have vendors lined up for those things, and that would be another outcome of this project. Project employment information. So we're looking for you to tell us how many full-time and how many part-time employees you're adding. Just tell us what you're adding. You've already told us how many you have earlier. So now here we just want you to tell us how many you're adding. And 1 year after project completion. So let's say your project is, 12, you can have up to 12 months to complete your project. So 1 year, after you've completed your project, how many are you looking to add? And we'd like you to be realistic. You don't think that you have to give us some big number to impress us. This is really, an information only kind of a thing. And one thing we look at is we expect to see about $250,000 of incremental revenue to justify each new full-time employee. So just in terms of how the numbers work, that's kind of for most companies. Now, if your gross margin or net margin even is a lot smaller than average, then that number will need to be bigger to justify new employees. So like I say, be realistic. What is the additional incremental new sales revenue that you anticipate as a result of this project? So 1 year after project completion and 3 years after project completion. And again, just be realistic. Keep in mind that you need a certain amount of sales per new employee. So keep that. All right, project budget and timeline. So this section contributes up to 16% of your total score. And your estimated project start date and your end date. You can make your start date the day that you apply, and your end date can be up to 12 months after that. Or you may choose to say, we're going to wait until we hear, or we don't, we hear back in terms of whether we're funded, and you can put a start date in the months ahead. Just some budget information here, and this is stuff we covered in the workshop about the program itself, but you can read through that again, be sure you understand everything. So there's a full list of eligible and ineligible expenses. I know I pointed out there's some on the website. Those are just kind of highlights. The full lists are in the guide. Also, if you turn to the appendix of the Market Development Guide, there's even greater detail in terms of the amounts allowed for travel, for meals, for accommodation, all those sorts of things. So the information's all there for you to refer to. And there's, when we get into the budgets here, there's categories. So you just want to choose the appropriate category and then give us a description of what is being provided. And if possible, include a service provider. Like hopefully, if you're at this point, you've had some time to think about the project, to talk to vendors about what something should cost. You don't necessarily, if you say vendor ABC, we're not going to hold you to that. We really don't care. But, as long as you indicate that you've, hopefully done some research on this and you know what costs are for things, and then give us lots of detail about what the description is. Also, too, is if you're going to put your significant vendors on this budget who are doing, let's say the bulk of the work, then you should have mentioned those in the earlier section where you're talking about who's you're going to be working with. So the budget tables are much like they were previously. So there's a category. Now there's going to be 4 different budget pages, one for each funding stream. And you can fill in all 4 of these funding streams if you've got a breadth of activities that goes across all funding streams. That's perfectly acceptable. And the total contribution for all funding streams is up to $30,000. So all 4 funding streams total together. Okay, just showing you these here. So there's those different categories. This table here is going to total up automatically for you. And then that number you will enter in the top line here. So this is your client contribution or your funding plan. And essentially you need to complete this. So you would put the amount of the total project from this summary chart here. And then indicate how are you going to fund the project. And if you there's funding non-repayable, please do not use this program as part of your funding plan. The reason is because this program will make its contribution on a reimbursement basis, which means you don't actually have the money from this program up front to buy the services and goods that you're planning to buy. So maybe there's some other funding you're getting, some other program, you can put that on there, but do not put this program on there. Funding repayable. So then when you get into some of these categories down here, we would like you to share, is there an interest rate? What's the term? And who's the source? And really, if there's any, you're entering these and there's blanks, then we're going to assume, okay, well, you don't actually have this, this locked down. And to that point, we're going to assume that if you're indicating a funding source that you are representing, that you have talked to that funding source and you basically got it locked down so that you do in fact have the ability to pay for your project up front. In terms of assessing your application, please note that additional factors may be considering in determining the eligibility of the applicant, including the provision of false or misleading information by the applicant under other Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership programs, and if there are any amounts due and owing by the applicant under other programs. It could be outside of Sustainable CAP as well. And again, just mentioning your contribution plan must use funding sources other than the anticipated contribution from this program. The thing too is your project can also be partially funded. So, we do look down the budget list, and if there's items in there that are not eligible, we just, kind of strike them from the eligible budget. So you may in fact be invited to receive funds that are less than what you were expecting. Attachments. So for business that's been operational more than 1 year, we want to see your most recent balance sheet and your most recent income statement. And really, we're in early 2024 right now. I would hope that we're going to be seeing financials from 2023 from you, not 2022 or older. And for a business that has been operational for 1 year or less, that's perfectly fine. Again, we do look forward to receiving applications from new or startup businesses. We're looking for a forecasted balance sheet or pro forma or forecasted income statement. If you want to, there's accounting programs that can generate that for you. You can go to the Google and do a search for examples to see what we're talking about there. It doesn't have to be complex or fancy. All it does is it demonstrates that you understand how you're going to fund your business, and then that you have a plan, for making sales and for paying for your project and all your expenses. If you want to give us an organizational chart, a business plan, a marketing plan, product photos, cash flows, or other, or even tell us about other businesses you own. So for instance, particularly if this is a startup company, so let's say you're a farmer and you've been a successful farmer for 10 years and you've got very impressive financials, please tell us that, because if you're then starting a new company that has no history and that has no financials, well, that really strengthens your application just in terms of giving us that other information from the other business. So it adds a lot more credibility to you to be able to apply for funding. There's a privacy notice here that you'll want to read, and then there's a bunch of check boxes. So in checking these boxes, you are swearing to these statements and that everything you're providing is true and accurate. And then there's a place here to put the date, and again, do the right date format. And then if everything has been filled in, then the save button will pop up. You can also hit submit from here. And I believe it opens an email. So then you can attach your applicant information form. You can attach your financials. You can attach any other stuff you want to share with us. Okay, in terms of next steps, once the intake opens, well, even now, if you have any questions about eligibility of specific expenses, you can contact us. Once the application is available and you'd like us to review it prior to submitting it, you can contact us at mbagrafood@gov.mb.ca. And once you're ready to submit your complete application, and it noted this address on the application is agriculture@gov.mb.ca. Please note that you must send the application in yourself. Manitoba agricultural staff are not permitted to submit your application on your behalf because there's an acknowledgement that is sent out from the agriculture account and that your email has been received. And also too is please try to ensure that you're sending everything that's required and answering all the questions so that staff doesn't have to follow up with you. It just makes the process more efficient and faster. So that would be appreciated. Okay, that concludes the presentation of the content for this program.